we bring you the latest in the world of sports. I'm Paulo Del Rosario.
We give you the conversations you want to hear from your favorite icons and athletes. I'm Denise Tan, and in tonight's Game Plan, we'll look ahead to Game 1 of the PBA Philippine Cup Finals between the San Miguel Beermen and the TNT Tropang Giga with a brand new edition of the Shot List.
We'll also list down 5 PBA rookies who have shown solid potential in the league. Keyword solid. Is there a new PBA star in the making? And we will hear from Coach Nenad Vucinic as he sits down with Gilas correspondent Carlo Pamintuan. Buckle up, sports fans. Let's get in the game. It's the calm before the storm known as the PBA Philippine Cup Finals. As we look ahead to Game 1 of the matchup between the San Miguel Beermen and the TNT Tropang Giga, PBA Rush anchor and Mr. Shoot First himself, Mikee Reyes, is back with a finals edition of the Shot List. Slightly nag-iba na yung title card natin, pero yan pa rin yung picture ni Mikee. That was his choice, by the way, Denise. Again,
Good to know.
Oo nga he dresses so well, pero yan yung picture na ginamit niya. First of all, Mikee, before we even go to your shot list, now we have TNT and San Miguel. I think it's fair to say na these are the two teams that really separated themselves from the pack.
Were you here when I predicted that pre-playoffs?
It's an easy pick to make. Pero, you were right. Pero alam mo, that begs the question, bakit hindi predictions yung shot list mo ngayon? Diba?
Kasi ang hirap i-predict nitong Game 1,
Tama.
especially Game 1.
Alright, sige. So Denise, let's start out here. And of course, the first one that he has is that it's, just for TNT, just like before, it's to stop others because Junmar Fajardo will get his. Pa-explain naman.
That was the same, shot I took when I was talking about Meralco against SMB. And Meralco, obviously, in those games wherein they got the win in 3 wins, somehow they stopped the others. At the end of the day, I believe at some point you will concede to Junmar Fajardo. He will get his 20-15, 25-15. But at the end of the day, if you can limit the other players, namely CJ Perez, Jericho Cruz, Marshall Lassiter, even Simon Enciso, Vic Manuel, easier said than done, ang dami kong sinabi. But if you find a way to at least limit these guys and, make Junmar work more for if they want to win, then that's something for TNT.
And second key for TNT, you said they have to let it fly. They're first in 3 points made, they're second in 3-point percentage. Obviously, that's one way also of trying to veer away from matching up with Junmar also.
Yeah, and you want to pull Junmar out of the paint.
Yeah.
And I believe that Poy Eram and Troy Rosario would be very crucial in this series. Namely Poy, because we just found out that he won't be suspended in Game 1. I believe may fine lang. So, Poy, the way he played in the semifinals when he scored 20, a couple of times 19, if he can stretch the floor and force Junmar out of the paint, yun yung lamang ni Poy over a Cliff Hodge and a Raymond Almazan, is to be able to stretch the floor. That's going to be big. And also, basic math, at the end of the day, Junmar, medyo automatic 2 points in sa loob, but if you can counter that with threes, then that's a big plus again for TNT.
Alam mo yung TNT, when you talk about their 3-point shooting, it's not a surprise that minsan yung mga 3-point attempts nila are higher than their 2-point attempts. If you're San Miguel though, alam ko we're gonna go through those points later on for San Miguel, but then I just wanna ask, if they do limit yung 3-point, kahit yung attempts lang ng TNT, sa palagay mo ba that will work in the favor of San Miguel, even if you concede more twos?
Well, you did say it, that they sometimes take more threes. That's their primary weapon, especially here in this All-Filipino Conference. And if you take away the threes, that just means that you take away the main weapon of a Mikee Williams.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, when Mikee gets hot, he's going to let it fly, he's going to hit from the outside. So, one thing's for sure, if SMB would want to beat TNT, it goes both ways. If TNT can hit from the outside, that's an advantage for them. If SMB can stop them from the outside, then that's an advantage for SMB.
Now, I want to figure out as well, because when we talk about San Miguel and we talk about the Philippine Cup and them being in it, we always talk about the Death Five and, all that.
We used to talk about the Death
Yeah,
Five.
No, we still
Yeah,
talk about the
yeah.
Death Five because it's inevitable that we compare that past team to this team.
Yes.
But you know what? It's all said and done. There's new players coming in. Jericho Cruz, CJ Perez, everybody. Roddy Bradell and Simon Enciso doing very well. Is it fair to say that San Miguel, with this new kind of lineup, still shouldn't really fix anything? Because technically, things aren't broken yet.
No, things aren't broken when you look at it like from this, especially this conference, because we've seen a 100% Junmar Fajardo in which I believe he's better now because he's more cerebral than he was pre-injury. But, you know, at the end of the day, you gotta win at least one chip to be able to at least be at par.
Yeah.
And finally, SMB fans can say na nag-benefit yung SMB with all the trades and rebuilding because namimiss pa rin yung Death 5 until they get a chip. So.
You know, speaking of that actually plays to your other point na para sa San Miguel, yung unang punto mo para sa kanila is that to make sure that everybody eats. I think there were a few games during the series against Meralco kung saan si Junmar at si CJ Perez ang gumawa and really not much from a lot of the other guys and natalo sila. But then with this San Miguel team, I think it's fair to say that everyone needs to contribute no matter how well a CJ Perez or Juma Fajardo will play.
Well, they've accepted their roles. I mean, it was tough maybe at the start when you brought them in, even us as fans, parang, can they embrace their roles? Can they accept that they're not superstars anymore? I mean, at least the role that they will play in. Like Jericho Cruz, he came from NLEX wherein siya yung number 2 guy when Kiefer was out, siya yung number 2 guy kay Kevin Alas. So, now that they've accepted their roles and every time they get wins, you see the 3, 4, 5 guys are in double figures, aside from Junmar, whom again, he will obviously eat his food. So if they can all complement Junmar, then that will be a very, very, very big piece for SMB.
Actually, before we get to our next segment, I just want to add to that. In the games that San Miguel won in the semifinals, Junmar, he was averaging around 14 points, but in the losses, 22. So kita mo, yes, it's a lower average for Junmar, but everybody just really surrounding him and playing off him.
Alam mo, Denise, now, because he's our guest, and we're all going to be covering the game, by the way. We're all going to be covering game number 1. I'll be on shoot around. Denise, you'll be there at courtside. And then, Mikey, I think you were going to be there for Smart, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So, because you're our guest here, I'm going to ask the one thing that we cannot answer.
Okay.
Kasi, ganito yan eh. TNT, going into this one, has a bit of rest against the San Miguel Beermen. A lot of people are looking at the series as a whole na it's a relatively an even matchup. Pero sa game number 1, pabor ba ang TNT against the San Miguel Beermen?
There's only one guy who needs rest, and that's Jason Castro. I believe the other guys are young enough to play, you know, games in 2 days, 3 days. But there's only one guy who needs rest, which was Jason, in which sobrang taas yung usage rate niya. So I believe with a big piece like Jason, they will have that slight edge against SND.
You see, Denise, we can't answer that question eh, di ba? So, sa kanya na lang, siya yung guest natin.
Para sa akin, magalit yung mga...
Actually, yun talaga. Yun talaga.
Alright, he's not going anywhere, Denise.
Yep, because after the break, we're not done yet with the PBA as we list down the top 5 rookies with solid potential. Find out if your pick made it on the list when the game returns. Welcome back to the game. We're still joined by PBA Rush anchor Mikee Reyes, and now we're shifting focus from the finals to the young guns across the league with solid potential after their first conference. And Mikee, again, you gave us a list of the players that you saw good things from at unang-una dyan. Tyler Tio, aside from him shooting at almost 50% from beyond the arc, ano pa yung mga
And he
nagustuhan?
shoots a lot, by the way.
He shoots a lot. I think one thing I love about Tyler is the experiences that he had when he was with Ateneo.
Yeah.
He never really tried to do more than what was asked of him. He played behind SJ Belangel, he played behind Matt Nieto, so he knew his role.
Yeah.
Now entering a team with Coach Topex, he knows na, there's an RJ Hazul, there's an Aljun Melesio, there's a, obviously Matty Wright's not there anymore, but still he knows his role and he will be very good in that role, which is spot up, be ready. Anytime the ball is kicked out to him, he will let it fly. So, I like how humble he is as a star because he's really gonna stick with that role kung anong iutos sa kanya ni Coach Topex.
Itong si Tyler, and I'm sure we can use this example for the rest of the rookies rin, came into the league and still continue to be good at what they were good at in college. And a lot of people were questioning, ma-translate ba yan in the professional level? And it looks like for Tyler, he has. Is that a surprise to you na na-translate niya yung skill set niya from Ateneo here to the PBA?
Well, he didn't really need to change much. Exactly his role in Ateneo, that's exactly what he got. Although he can start at times for Coach Topex, and we all know this, Coach Topex, such a player's coach,
Yeah.
Would love to see his players flourish. So he's definitely going to put Tyler in situations wherein he can be successful.
Now let's move on to your second pick. Pinili mo si Justin Arana. He was averaging 8.8 points per game, 8 rebounds per game. And when you do talk to a lot of senior centers in the past, they would actually compare him to Junmar Fajardo. Do you see that comparison as well?
Hirap na na.
Well, I covered him in college.
Yeah.
There were times where he had like 20, I think he had 28, 30 rebounds.
Yeah.
And people were surprised when I said that he had Junmar potential. I didn't say he was going to be Junmar, but he had Junmar potential because at the end of the day, you really can't teach size.
Yeah.
You can teach size, you can teach heft. And for him to play behind or at least play for Coach Daniel Defonso, you know that he's going to sooner or later, his skills will catch up with his athleticism and his build. So, yeah, by far, obviously, Junmar is a specimen. I think the closest would be Justin Arana.
Only time will tell, of course.
Yeah,
Only
only
time
time will
will
tell if he'll meet the Mikee Reyes the potential of Junmar Fajardo. Ito naman, Brandon Ganuela's roster from the Blackwater Bossing. You mentioned athleticism a while ago when talking about Arana, pero ibang level talaga yung BGR in terms of athleticism. He started that conference a bit injured, but then what did you like from him once he got healthy?
His versatility, because at the end of the day, we all expected him to be, BGR because, number one pick. He played great in the 3x3 setting. We were all just waiting to see anong kaya niya sa 5-on-5. There was a time when Blackwater was really on top of the world, but there was also a time that they were struggling. So with BGR, I believe he has to deliver. I think it's a mere, you have no choice but to deliver. You have no choice but to produce because Blackwater is really counting on BGR. And also, it doesn't hurt to have a kuya who's been in the league for so long.
Yeah, he knows what it's all about.
Yep.
Yeah.
And his kuya's in the finals. So again, he will have to watch, he will have to, experience that whole finals atmosphere.
Yeah.
Now talking about another Blackwater bossing, Ato Ular.
Your favorite?
Wag tayong ganyan. No, but you know what? He's been doing well. I have to still go back. He's the league leader in terms of rookies in statistical points. But I would always go back to that crazy 34-point game that he had on his first conference. To be able to perform that way, what kind of game do you see, or what kind of future do you see from?
I covered him in college. I covered him on the mid-pro level, and with Ato Ular, those were 34 points with no play called for him. There was not one time that Ariel Vanguardia said, "Let's go to Ato Ular." I don't think anyone has ever said that, but he just knows his role. He knows that he's not the most skillful, but he also knows that he can outwork, outjump, out-hustle. And especially, aminin man natin na hindi. Pag nag-hustle ka sa PBA, medyo may lamang ka kagad. Kasi kalaro mo mga medyo veterano na. So I think he surprised a lot of bigs. He surprised a lot of people in the PBA. And if he continues to play that role, you know, it's gonna be sky's the limit for Ato.
Para siyang ant-eater, no? Parang just like sniffing out all of those
Naghihintay lang,
balls.
gumaganon-ganon lang sa
nandun
ilalim na ring eh.
Oh, and yes, and I will try to call him the ant-eater next time. Ito naman, Javi Gomez de Liano, who came into the league, syempre, a lot of news around him kasi he was with Ginebra first and got into Terra Firma, and people were wondering what he could do with the Terra Firma Jeep, and he impressed a lot of people, including you.
Well, some people break out early. Some people, you know, takes time to really adjust to the PBA game. And with Javi, again, just like Justin, you can't teach height. You have a guy who is, what, 6'4", 6'5", who can shoot from the outside. You see his build, you see his body ngayon, parang condition na. He's really a pro now. He thinks like a pro, he acts like a pro, and he works out like a pro now. So, just like anybody in that rookie list, sky's the limit for this kid as long as he finds his way through that rotation, gets his rhythm going, and we'll see what happens with Javi. But one thing though, I have to bring up Gian Mamuyak. It was tough, top 5.
Yeah.
But you have to bring up Gian Mamuyak. You have to bring up like length, both ends of the floor he can play.
Defense.
His peskiness,
Well, he's
his
always
IQ.
been known for his defense.
Yes,
Yeah. So these 6 guys.
Yeah, of course, there he is, honorable mention, Gian Mamuyak. Still part of that list from our own Mikee Reyes. Mikee, maraming salamat. Wala nang surprise question. Promise.
Wala na.
Oh, wala na. Kasi, wala. People are already angry at you. So, okay na yun. Maraming salamat, Mikee.
I appreciate you guys.
All right, so after the break, we'll bring you our full exclusive interview with Coach Nenad Vucinic on his time with the Gilas men's basketball team. Stay tuned. You're watching The Game. Welcome back. You're watching The Game. Gilas correspondent Carlo Pamintuan sits down with assistant coach Nenad Vucinic to talk about his decision moving forward from Gilas Pilipinas. Let's watch this.
All right, joining us for this exclusive interview is Coach Nenad Vucinic. Coach, we heard that you will be parting ways with the Gilas Pilipinas program and the Samahang Basketball Pilipinas. Can you just share with us the reasons behind this departure?
Look, initially when I came to work with Gilas, I was invited by my good friend and mentor Ted Baldwin. Since he is not part of the program anymore, I really wanted to leave at that time, but I was convinced by him and also by incoming director Reyes and all the other people in the organization to stay, and I didn't regret staying. It was a great experience. We worked well together, but now, you know, with the new season sort of coming up, you know, I reconsidered and thought I might look for some other opportunities, you know. But I've got nothing but really great things to say about the people in Graham, and you know, I'm happy that I came and met all the people, and I tried to help as much as I could. But for me, probably have to take a different path now.
Coach, very short and sweet was your stint here in the Philippines, but can you just, in a nutshell, describe how it was working with the coaching staff and the players and SBP, the management of the Samahang Basketball ng Pilipinas, in your very short stay with the squad?
Yes, I mean, I had great times with all the good people that are in a SBP organization. So, you know, I have no regrets of taking this job and having fun. We worked really hard because it was a difficult situation with unavailability of the players, but also Coach Jot wasn't available, so I had to step in, and I did the best I could. And you know, there is no really hard feelings about anything, but it's just another opportunity.
You were part of a very surreal moment when you flew into Auckland coaching the away team, but then played in a venue that was packed with Filipinos. Like, how weird was that moment? How surreal did it feel for you?
You're right. It was absolutely weird. The first time I have coached against the team that I played and coached for 25 years, and to be in a very familiar environment, surrounded by those people, you know, from New Zealand organization, the players, the coaches, and the venue as well. And then the venue being, you know, at least half of the people were Filipinos, and plus the fact that they really showed us, you know, how we should play basketball. They have came out of firing and played very well. You know, unfortunately, we had a bad night that night and lost really convincingly. But the whole experience, as you said, it was surreal, and but it was fun as well.
You were here during a very challenging time in Philippine basketball. Of course, we know that the results of the pandemic being straining the schedules of the different leagues. You talked about the availability of the players and the coaches, but what was it like working with the SBP, with Chairman Manny Pangilinan, and of course President Alpanlilio? What can you say about your working relationship with those two? All
the time that I spent with these people were very valuable for me, and I think, you know, they also saw that, you know, I was giving everything I had, and they were appreciative of that. And, you know, I have nothing but great things to say about the boss MVP and the boss Al, boss Butch, you know, Yvette, you know, all those people, as well as coaching staff. It was really pleasure, and I hope to be involved again with any kind of way in Philippines basketball.
You coach really young players. Among all of them, who are you excited to see most? Who are you excited to see develop as international basketball players?
Look, you know, I mean, they're all done well. I think even, you know, apart from that New Zealand game was really tough, you know, but the two Korean games and the India games, you know, they all really stepped up and played really hard. Probably the one that I would point out is Gio Chu, you know, who with late defection from Ange Kwame, it was a very difficult position for him, but he went to Korea and played extremely well against Ratliff and also Kim, you know, two big Korean guys that, you know, have been dominant, and he played very well, and I was really pleased for him, and I hope he's going to continue his development.
Coach Nenad, finally, we all know that the international basketball community is very small. So, will we be seeing you come 2023 for the FIBA World Cup here in the Philippines?
I hope so. I hope I'm going to be there as a spectator. But I have a feeling that that my time in Philippines is not finished yet. I don't know when will I be back, but I'm sure I will be back and working as well here. So,
Coach, thank you for your contributions and all the best in your future endeavors.
thank you very much, Carlo.
Again, that was Nenad Vucinic on his experience here in the Philippines. And that's a wrap for tonight's show. Thank you for joining us. I'm Denise Tan.
Catch us weeknights here on One News, One Sports, and One Sports Plus. I'm Paulo Del Rosario, and this has been The Game.